What if I told you you're wasting your spiritual life? Listen, right now, millions are on their knees, hands clasped, eyes closed, whispering words into the silent emptiness. Know what's on the other side? Silence. Deafening silence they tend not to hear. You felt it, haven't you? Devastating moment when you realize your prayers just aren't getting through? Exactly how it feels. I've been there. Shadowy place where you question if God even exists, or if you're not worthy enough to be heard, or if there's something fundamentally wrong with you. But what if I told you the problem was never you? What if the problem was prayer itself? Stop. Breathe deep, because what I'm about to reveal will shake everything you've been taught about spiritual connection. Eckhart Tolle discovered something revolutionary, something religious institutions would prefer you never knew. A 3-minute method 10 times more effective than any prayer. And today, you'll learn exactly how it works. But first, you need to understand why prayer fails. Imagine someone shouting in a room with glass walls. No one outside can hear a word. Why? Because there's an invisible barrier blocking communication. Prayer works exactly like that. Shouting, pleading, begging. But there's a glass wall between you and the divine. And that wall has a name: the thinking mind. Every word you utter in a prayer, your mind is analyzing, judging, doubting. Am I doing this right? Why isn't God answering me? Maybe I don't deserve it. It's like trying to hear a whispered song while someone's operating a jackhammer next to your ear. Impossible. Have you noticed your deepest moments of spiritual connection never happened during formal prayer? They happened when you were simply present, maybe contemplating a sunset, or walking in a forest, or holding the hand of someone you love. Why? Because in those moments, your mind stopped talking. And when the mind stops talking, the divine can finally communicate with you. Here's the problem no one tells you. Modern society has turned our minds into engines that never turn off. Thought after thought after thought, like a poorly tuned radio that only produces static. And then you go to church or your prayer corner and try to connect with God using the same noisy mind that disconnects you from Him all day long. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. I discovered this the hardest way possible. I'd lost my job. My relationship was falling apart. I felt like I was sinking in emotional quicksand. So I started praying with desperate intensity. 3, 4, 5 hours a day. Promises, pleas, bargaining, everything you can imagine. And know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, it got worse. Because with each day of divine silence, my faith crumbled a little more. It was like I was sending letters to an address that didn't exist. Until one night, exhausted from all the praying, I simply stopped. Sat in silence, without asking for anything, without saying anything, just being. In the first few minutes, my mind was panicking. What are you doing? This is a waste of time. Go back to praying. But I was too tired to obey. So I stayed there, like a rock in the middle of a rain. It was there, in that deep silence, that it happened. First, it was as if the volume of the world had been noises of my mind, which seemed so urgent seconds before, started to sound distant. Then came a physical sensation in my chest, as if something very old and familiar was waking up, as if it had always been there, waiting for me to stop making noise to reveal itself. Then I understood something, that presence wasn't God visiting me. It was me remembering that I'd always been inseparable from that presence. The separation was just an constant noise. That night, I understood what Eckhart Tolle had been trying to teach us for decades. The connection with the divine doesn't happen when you talk to God. It happens when you stop talking and allow God to speak through your silence. But it's not just any silence. It's a very specific kind of conscious presence that acts as a master key to dimensions of reality that the mind can never reach. Most incredible thing, it only takes 3 minutes to access this state. 3 minutes that can completely transform your spiritual experience forever. Are you ready to discover how? Because what I'm about to teach you isn't a technique. It's a completely new way of existing, a way to become a living portal to the sacred. First, you need to understand that God, or the universe, or the supreme consciousness, call it what you will, doesn't speak the language of thoughts. That language was invented by humans. It's artificial. It's limited. The divine speaks the language of pure being, the language of the present moment, the language that exists before any word is formed in your mind. It's like the difference between reading about the ocean in a book and actually diving into the waters. Prayer is the book. The method I'm going to teach you is the dive. Imagine that inside you there is a sacred space, an inner temple where there are no thoughts, only pure presence. Most people never find this temple because they are always running through the noisy streets of the mind. But when you finally find this place, it's like you've discovered the direct line to the divine. You no longer need to shout to be heard. You no longer need to beg to be answered. You simply are home. And the transformation that happens when you master this practice is indescribable. I'll tell you what really happens, week by week, because you deserve to know exactly what to expect. In the first week, you'll notice that that critical voice in your head decreases in volume. You know, that voice that's always judging, comparing, complaining, it doesn't disappear, loses its power to control you. In the second week, you start making different decisions. Small decisions, but significant ones. Instead of automatically reacting to stressful situations, you pause, you breathe, you respond from a calmer place. By the third week, you seem different. You're calmer. What's changed? They can't quite put their finger on it, but they sense something new in your presence. Within the first month, the miracles begin. Not miracles in the traditional religious sense. Miracles in the sense of impossibly perfect synchronicities. You think of someone, and that person calls you. You need a solution, and it appears unexpectedly. The universe starts to conspire in your favor. Problems that seemed impossible begin to resolve themselves. Not because you prayed for it, but because you've aligned yourself with the infinite intelligence that governs the universe. You stop swimming against the current and discover the current was trying to take you exactly where you needed to be. Relationships heal because you're no longer desperate for approval or validation. You become a safe space for other people to be authentic. Conflicts dissolve because you no longer fuel unnecessary drama. Money starts flowing in unexpected ways. Not because you've become ambitious, but because you've stopped being gripped by the fear of scarcity. Opportunities appear because you're attuned to the natural flow of abundance. Your intuition becomes so sharp that you begin making decisions with almost supernatural precision. You know which path to follow before you even logically understand why. And almost always, your intuitions prove correct. This isn't magic. It's what happens when you stop interfering with life's natural wisdom and allow it to flow through you. Secret most people don't understand. This method doesn't work if you use it as a technique to get things. It only works when you completely surrender to the present moment. No agenda, no expectations, just being. It's like planting a seed. If you keep digging it up every day to see if it's sprouted, you'll kill the plant. Simply tend the soil and trust the natural process. One day you wake up and there's a majestic tree in your garden. Starting to feel it, aren't you? That subtle vibration that happens when you're about to discover something that can change your life forever? Because what I'm about to reveal isn't just a method, it's a gateway to a new way of living. A way where you no longer need to beg the universe for what you desire. You become a channel through which to prepare yourself. Close your eyes with me. Not literally, of course. Let's take a journey to the center of your being. Method Eckhart Tolle discovered has 3 simple steps. So simple, your mind will try to complicate them. Resist that temptation. Simplicity is what makes this powerful. Step 1, the breath portal. It's not about controlling your breath. It's about becoming consciously aware that you are breathing. There's an oceanic difference between those two. Try to control your breath, your mind is in charge. You count. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. This keeps you in prison. You simply observe the breath happening. You connect with the infinite intelligence that keeps your heart beating without you having to think about it. Same intelligence that makes plants grow and planets rotate. Sit comfortably. Allow your eyes to close naturally. Now, simply notice the air entering and leaving your body. Don't change anything. Just observe. Feel the cool air touching your nostrils as it enters. Feel the warm air as it leaves. Notice how your chest expands naturally, how your belly moves. You're not making this happen. It's happening through you. It's as if you're a scientist studying the most mysterious phenomenon in the universe. Life happening through you. Curious, but without judgment. Fascinated, but without urgency. Step 2, the space between thoughts. This is where the magic really happens. Between one thought and the next, there's always a small space of silence. Most people never notice this space because they're rushing from thought to thought, like someone hopping from stone to cross a river. But what if you stopped on one of those stones and looked at the water rushing beneath? I'll teach you how to find this space. As you observe your breath, your mind will begin to produce thoughts. Am I doing this right? How much longer? I need to buy milk later. It's inevitable. Here's the secret. Don't try to stop these thoughts. That's impossible and will only frustrate you. Instead, when a thought appears, simply observe it as if it were a cloud passing across the sky of your consciousness. Ah, there's a thought about work. Ah, there's a worry about money. Don't judge. Don't analyze. Just acknowledge and let it pass. Now comes the crucial part. When a thought ends and before the next one begins, there's always a small emptiness, a space of pure silence. Sometimes it lasts half a second, sometimes 2 seconds. At first, you'll barely notice it. But when you do, it's like discovering a secret door in the wall of your own mind. This space between thoughts is where the divine dwells. It's the secret address you've been searching for during all those prayers. It's where pure presence reveals itself without the distortions of the thinking mind. With practice, you'll be able to inhabit this space for longer and longer periods. It's like learning to hold your breath underwater. At first, a few seconds. Then, you can remain submerged in peace for entire minutes. Step 3. Total surrender. This is the step that separates the true seekers from the casually curious. You need to surrender completely to the present moment. Not partially, completely. It's like skydiving. You can't just jump a little. Either you jump or you don't. Surrender means stopping trying to get something from this practice. Stopping bargaining with the universe. Stopping having a secret agenda. You simply are. When you manage to hold these 3 elements together for just 3 minutes, observing the breath, inhabiting the space between thoughts, in total surrender, something extraordinary happens. You don't experience God. You experience being God, experiencing you. I know how this might sound. Blasphemy to some, madness to others. But Eckhart Tolle spent decades exploring that boundary between the human and the divine. And what he discovered transcends any single religion. He discovered that the separation between you and the divine is an illusion, created by the thinking mind. You transcend that mind, the separation disappears. What remains is pure consciousness, pure presence, pure love. But I'll let you in on a secret that could save you years of your life. In the early days of practicing this, your mind will do everything to sabotage you. It'll tell you you're wasting time, that this is nonsense, that you should be doing something productive. It'll invent false urgencies. You can't just sit there. You have so much to do. First 3 days, it's common to feel physical restlessness. Your legs will want to move. Your fingers will want to tap. Your mind will generate a never-ending list of urgent tasks that need to be done immediately. On the 4th day, the resistance changes tactics. Your mind will bombard you with doubts. Does this really work? Maybe you're fooling yourself. Successful people don't just sit around doing nothing. 5th day, if you've persevered this far, something subtle begins to shift. It's your breath becoming deep, shoulders relaxing without you having to think about it. 6th day, you catch your first glimpse of what I'm talking about. Perhaps for just a few seconds, you experience a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's like diving into crystal clear waters after years of swimming in murky depths. 7th day, you understand you're not doing a practice. You're remembering how to come home. This resistance is normal. It's even a good sign. It means you're touching something real. The thinking mind is like a tyrant who's always had total control over the kingdom of your consciousness. And now you're showing it there's a more powerful king. Your presence. Of course, it will fight. But every time you return to your breath, to the space between thoughts, to surrender, you're voting for your spiritual freedom. You're choosing to wake up instead of continuing to sleep. There's something more, something I discovered after months of practicing this method. The things you used to ask for in your prayers start to appear in your life, but not in the way you expected, in much better ways. More creative, more surprising. It's as if the universe says, now that you've stopped telling me how to do my job, I can really help you. Relationships heal because you're no longer desperate for approval. Money flows because you're no longer constricted by the fear of scarcity. Opportunities arise because you're attuned to the natural flow of life. But the most profound transformation happens in your relationship with suffering. Before, when something painful happened, you had 2 choices: resist or be destroyed. Resistance meant tension, stress, constant struggle. Being destroyed meant depression, anxiety, victimhood. Now you discover a third option that has always been available. Observing suffering, like you observe a storm. You don't try to stop the storm. You don't run out into the rain either. You find shelter within yourself and watch the storm pass. Because that's what happens when you connect with this inner presence. You discover there's a part of you that can never be touched by external circumstances. A part that remains untouched, even when our world is falling apart. It's like discovering you are the ocean, not the waves. The waves can be violent, enormous, terrifying. But 300 feet down, the ocean remains in absolute serenity. Nothing that happens on the surface affects that depth. You always knew that depth existed. That's why, even in the most difficult moments of your life, a part of you knew it would be all right. Not because the problems would magically resolve themselves, but because there's something within you that is greater than any problem. This is the part of you that was never born and will never die. The part that existed before your first thought and will continue to exist after your last. The part that is pure consciousness, observing the human experience happening through you. When you touch this dimension of your being, even for a few seconds, everything changes. Because you realize you were never just a human being having spiritual experiences. You are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. You're feeling it, aren't you? That subtle vibration that happens when a profound truth resonates within your being. Because what I'm sharing with you isn't just words. They're maps to territories of consciousness that most people never explore. And the most incredible, you don't need to prepare anymore. You don't need to be more worthy. The sacred temple within you is already built. The doors are already open. You just need to enter. But I'll give you a valuable tip that can dramatically accelerate your progress. Practice this method at the same time every day, preferably in the morning, before your mind fills up with the day's worries. 3 minutes, every day, no exceptions. After a week, you'll notice subtle changes, more calmness, more clarity, less anxiety. After a month, the changes become evident to other people. They'll comment that you seem different, more centered, more present. After 3 months, well, after 3 months, you won't be the same person who began this journey. And here's something that might shock you. This method works regardless of your religious beliefs. Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, agnostics, all report the same extraordinary results. Why? Because you're not adhering to a religion. You're accessing the dimension of consciousness that exists before any religion was created. It's the territory where all mystics of all traditions meet. The place where differences disappear and only unity remains. But there's one last thing I need to tell you. Something that may be the most important of all. This method will connect you with a version of yourself you forgot existed. The version that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. That doesn't carry the weight of the world on its shoulders. That knows at the deepest level of being that everything is all right. Not because the external problems have disappeared, but because you've discovered something that can never be shaken by external circumstances. You've discovered who you really are, and when that happens, prayer becomes unnecessary. Not because you stop communicating with the divine, because you realize you were never separated from it. Each breath becomes a prayer. Each moment of presence becomes a sacrament. Each act of love becomes a sacred ceremony. You become a living prayer. Just maybe, this was the original intention all along. Maybe traditional prayer was just the training wheels. Now you're ready for the real practice of living each moment as a conscious celebration of life expressing itself through you. Tell me something. Look in the mirror tomorrow morning after experiencing those 3 minutes of pure presence. Will you see the same person you saw before? Will you see someone who has finally remembered what it's like to be home in their own being? The choice, as always, is yours, but now you have the key. The only question that remains is, will you use it?